The insult hit harder than the glass that shattered on the marble floor. "Tell me," the Chinese billionaire's voice cut through the VIP lounge like a whip, "is carrying drinks the highest honor for your people?" The room froze. Every head turned toward the black waiter standing with a tray in hand, amber whiskey dripping down his sleeve, drops sliding down his forearm like beads of fire. For a moment, silence held. Then the laughter began. Cruel, booming, relentless. Wealthy men in tailored suits slapped their knees. A flight attendant covered her mouth, but could not hide the grin. Even travelers lounging in their leather chairs, people who prided themselves on worldliness and education, smirked, complicit in the spectacle of humiliation. The billionaire leaned back in his leather chair, savoring his dominance. His wrist, heavy with a platinum watch, rested on the table like a declaration of power. His eyes, small and sharp, glittered with the satisfaction of reducing another man to nothing. "In China," he sneered, his English slow and deliberate, "even our children can quote Confucius. But here, a grown man cannot even hold a glass." The yabi laughter roared louder, spilling into every corner of the lounge like a fire feeding on oxygen. The black waiter, Samuel Reed, stood still, his chest rising and falling with quiet control. Years of swallowed pride sat on his tongue. He could have walked away. He could have lowered his head and endured, as he had so many times before. But something inside him refused. His eyes lifted. And then, like the strike of a match in a dark room, Samuel spoke, not in English, but in flawless, commanding Mandarin, "tJudgeOthers. The arrogant are destined to fall." The sound carried across the lounge, sharp and deliberate. The tones perfect, the delivery calm yet unyielding. The laughter faltered, caught mid-breath. The billionaire's smirk cracked, confusion flickering across his face. And in that instant, the power in the room shifted completely. Samuel's story did not begin there. He had not been born fluent in foreign words, nor had he been handed wisdom on a silver spoon. His life had been a series of storms, and every scar, every sacrifice had led to this moment. Samuel was born in Atlanta, the eldest of 3 children. His mother, Lorraine, worked double shifts as a nurse, her body weary but her spirit unbreakable. His father was gone before Samuel could walk, leaving Lorraine to raise her children with nothing but grit and faith. The neighborhood was tough, the streets loud with struggle, but inside their small apartment, Lorraine built a sanctuary of discipline and hope. She sang hymns while cooking, her voice tired but steady. She taught Samuel that dignity was not tied to wealth, but to character. From an early age, Samuel found solace in books. Words fascinated him. Languages seemed like keys, each one unlocking doors to new worlds. He would sit by the window at night, tracing foreign words with his finger, practicing sounds until his tongue could shape them with precision. Spanish came first, learned from neighbors and textbooks borrowed from the library. Then came French, pieced together from old tapes. But it was Mandarin that captured him completely. One of Lorraine's co-workers, a Chinese nurse named May, often visited their home. She brought with her cassettes of old Chinese poems and hymns, recordings of voices reciting lines from Confucius and Laozi. Samuel listened, again and again, mesmerized by the tones, the rhythm, the elegance. By 16, he could hold conversations in Mandarin. By 18, he was fluent, his accent precise, his knowledge deeper than some who had studied formally. He dreamed of becoming a linguist, of traveling, of teaching, of bridging worlds with language. But life, cruel in its demands, pulled him elsewhere. Lorraine fell ill, her health slipping under the weight of years of overwork. Hospital bills piled high. College became an unreachable dream. So Samuel worked, construction sites by day, Warehouses by night, kitchens on weekends, whatever kept the lights on. His dreams became folded papers tucked into drawers, waiting for a day that never seemed to come. Eventually, he found work at the airport VIP lounge. It was not glamorous, but it was steady. He wore the black and white uniform with quiet dignity, moving through the room invisible to the powerful men and women he served. To them, he was a background detail until that night. The airport hummed with energy, as it always did. Jets blinked like fallen stars outside on the tarmac, and inside, wealth hung in the air like perfume. Expensive colognes, cigars sealed behind glass, the clink of crystal glasses against marble. Counters. Samuel moved between tables with silent precision. His hands never trembled, his steps measured, his posture unbroken. Then he saw them. 5 men in tailored suits, their laughter already loud enough to dominate the room. At the center sat Li Wenhao, a name that carried weight across continents. Billionaire, investor, tycoon, a man whose empire stretched from Shanghai to Silicon Valley, a man used to deference, used to silence when he spoke. Samuel approached their table with a tray of whiskey tumblers, his expression calm, his movements deliberate, but Wenhao's gaze locked on him, sharp and predatory. "Look at this," Wenhao said, switching to English so the room could hear. Tall, strong, and yet here he is, carrying drinks. His companions laughed. Samuel set the glasses down with precision, his silence a shield. But Wenhao leaned forward, his voice louder now, meant for an audience. "In China," he said, "even children memorize Confucius. Discipline, respect. What do they teach? You hear? To smile while serving others?" The cruelty was deliberate. The room responded with another wave of laughter. Travelers glanced over, some amused, others uncomfortable but unwilling to intervene. For Samuel, the words landed heavy. They carried the weight of years of dismissal, the sting of being reduced to nothing more than the color of his skin and the uniform on his back. Memories surged. Teachers who doubted him, strangers who mocked his ambitions, countless moments when the world assumed he was less. But Samuel had learned patience. He had learned that silence can be strength, but so can speech. His mother's words echoed in his mind. "When they see only the surface, let your depth be the answer." So he lifted his head, and in perfect, unshaken Mandarin, he said, "Jiao Jie Bi Bai." The tones were flawless. The delivery precise. "The arrogant are destined to fall." The room froze. Wenhao blinked, his smirk faltering. His companions exchanged uneasy glances, but Samuel wasn't finished. His voice, calm yet commanding, flowed again in Mandarin. "Zhi zhe bu huo, ren zhe bu you, yong zhe bu ju." The wise are free from confusion, the virtuous from worry, the, brave from fear. Every word was deliberate, every syllable sharp. The lounge sat in stunned silence. The laughter, so loud moments ago, had vanished like smoke in the wind. Wenhao's face flushed crimson. For the first time in years he was not the man commanding the room. He was the man being judged. A woman in the corner began to clap, tentative at first, then stronger. Soon the sound spread. Applause filled the lounge, rising like a tide. Travelers stood, some nodding in admiration. The energy had shifted completely. Wenhao slammed his glass down, muttering something in Mandarin about ignorance and arrogance. But the damage was done. The humiliation clung to him like a shadow, and Samuel, once invisible, now stood taller than any man in the room. By morning, the story had already spread. A journalist in the lounge had recorded the exchange on her phone. The video hit the internet like a spark in dry grass. Within hours, it went viral. Black waiter silences Chinese billionaire. In Mandarin. Millions watched. Millions shared. Samuel's calm face, his poised delivery, his flawless Mandarin became symbols of dignity, intelligence, and quiet strength. But Samuel did not celebrate with arrogance. To him, it wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about humiliation. It was about truth, about showing the world that respect cannot be bought or sold. At home, his mother watched the video on her old laptop. Tears welled in her eyes. "I told you," she whispered, her voice frail but proud. "Your words would be your strength." Calls began to flood in. Universities wanted him to speak. Cultural organizations invited him to share his story. The airport offered him a promotion, recognition long overdue. For the first time, doors opened, not because of pity, but because the world finally saw what had always been there. As for Wenhao, his reputation suffered. Headlines dissected his arrogance. Investors whispered doubts. Public opinion turned. A man who once embodied power now symbolized pride brought low. Weeks later, Samuel walked back into the same lounge. This time, the air was different. Travelers recognized him, nodding with respect. Some approached, thanking him for his words. A few even bowed slightly, honoring him in the old Chinese way. Samuel smiled politely, still carrying his tray. He still served drinks. He still moved with quiet dignity. But everything had changed, because now every eye that met his saw more than a uniform. They saw a man of wisdom, a man who had stood against arrogance and won, not with wealth, not with power, but with words. That night in the lounge would never be forgotten. The night laughter turned to silence. The night a billionaire was humbled. The night a waiter stood taller than gold.